George Lamb has admitted that he regrets giving up on antisocial experiment in solitary so early. The presenter and son of EastEnders legend Larry Lamb was locked in solitary confinement, along with a group of volunteers, for the new Channel 5 show, but didn't even last 24 hours before he was begging to be released. The show aimed to see if a person can survive alone in silence, and drew criticism from viewers for being cruel and torturing the participants. But since the show aired, George has admitted that he regrets leaving so early. The production therapist greeted George as she let him out. Image Channel 5. George admits he wishes he'd stayed longer. Image George M. Lamb. Twitter. He made the confession after a fan tweeted him saying what the actual hell at George M. Lamb 23 hours. They followed it up with an emoji that's crying with laughter. George responded, "I wanted to stay in until I felt I had an understanding of their situation, but with hindsight you're right, I should have stayed in longer." Fans were keen to find out more about his time in solitary confinement and asked what he was given to eat while he was inside. He told them ration packs that you mixed with hot water. And when asked whether or not he had a shower, he simply responded, "Wet wipes." George left solitary confinement after less than 24 hours. Image Channel 5. The presenter looked disheveled after leaving the pod. Image Channel 5. Well, it's certainly not the lap of luxury that the stars are used to, is it? Although his dad did a lot better during his term in the I'm a Celeb jungle. People taking part in the show were given everything they need to survive but left completely alone in a pod in a deserted warehouse on the outskirts of Belfast. One of them reached breaking point after less than 4 hours alone, while another was seen vomiting in a sink as they struggled to deal with their anxiety. The volunteers were put in pods in a deserted warehouse in Belfast. Image Television Pictures Television. George didn't let the others know he was going in with them. Image Television Pictures Television. The group were under the watchful eye of a team led by psychologist Dr. Pauline Rennie Payton, who monitored and reviewed their behavior. Things got so bad for Sarah, 36, who was badly missing her 8-year-old son, that the therapists considered pulling her out for her own safety. She was seen pacing like a caged animal in a zoo before rolling on the floor in a blanket like a child. Sarah then started gagging and dashed out of the toilet to be sick in the sink. Sarah started to throw up in the sink. Image Channel 5. As her anxiety increased, the producers considered removing her from the pod. Image Channel 5. The voiceover said, "Alarmingly for Sarah, she is now suffering a physical reaction to the effects of solitary confinement." Presenter George, who had already left his pod after less than a day, said, "She's really actually being sick. Do you think that's a stress-induced thing?" Dr. Rennie Payton said, "It can't be what she's eaten, as she hasn't eaten very much." It then seemed like something had shifted and Sarah cheered after throwing up, before seeing out the final few hours. Charmaine broke down after less than 4 hours alone. Image Channel 5. She decided to call it a day and pressed the panic button. Image Channel 5. Sarah had been drafted in as a replacement for Charmaine White, 28, who quit after less than 4 hours. She broke down in tears while playing with plasticine as it reminded her of her son. Dr. Rennie Payton said she's only been here for a few hours and the reality is starting to hit her. Solitary actually means being by yourself. She's really struggling. Sarah was wide awake and struggling to take control of her emotions during first night and even read the emergency letter from her husband that was meant for many days in. After pushing the panic button, she said, "There is nothing more embarrassing than pushing that big red buy button so early on, but also like, so what? It's like admitting that I'm weak and I can't do it." Sarah added, "Although it was a very short period of time, it sort of just hit me, this moment of thinking, regardless of what I think of myself, the people around me love me so much and there's nothing more I need to prove. I definitely look back at it as a positive experience." Lloyd developed a coping mechanism, but the producers decided to play on his insecurities. Image Television Pictures Television. Meanwhile, Lloyd Wilkinson, 28, was tormented by producers after they discovered his coping mechanism and removed it to make his experience tougher. The scaffolder developed a strategy where he talked to the cameras, which followed him around the room, and compared it to Wilson the Ball in Tom Hanks' film Castaway. But the cameras were made static, which visibly lowered his mood and led to him playing football with his sock more aggressively. He said, "When the camera stopped interacting, I absolutely hated it. It put me in a really bad mood. When I first got in there, I was hiding behind the camera. When the camera stopped following me, I felt more alone." Even presenter George struggled with the challenge, admitting it felt like a punishment before pushing the panic button and escaping after less than 24 hours. The volunteers were forced to live in tiny pods. Image Television Pictures Television. George admitted he never really made peace with his surroundings and always had one eye on the door to get out. Speaking about the silence, he said, "It was kind of unrelenting, it just felt really constricting. Very quickly it became very difficult for me. It felt like a punishment. In solitary, viewers took to Twitter to accuse the production team of being cruel to the volunteers. One viewer said now they're just being cruel to Lloyd in solitary. Another added, in solitary it seems cruel to choose someone with no coping strategies. Is she hoping to learn some? A third said, 1 cup of tea a day and you're telling me it's not torture in solitary.